Gittin Daf Tes Vav. We begin with the Mishnah, which begins the second parak of the Masechta, and it discusses exactly how we say b'fanei nechtam. What happens if it's not completely said, or if we have multiple people involved? So the Gemara is going to explain all the cases of the Mishnah. So we'll just go through the Mishnah without explanation. The Mishnah brings a number of cases. Most of them are apostle, some are machokas. And first, we start with somebody who brings a get from a Medina Siyam. If he says b'fanei nechtav, but not b'fanei nechtam, it was signed, but it was written before me, but not signed, or the opposite, signed before me, but not written, or it was fully written before me, but only one of the witnesses signed before me, or all the witnesses signed before me, but only half of it was written before me, or if two people bring the get, and the Gemara will say only one of them is holding it, so only one of them is a shliach. And we'll have a discussion about that. One says I saw it written, the other says I saw it signed. All these cases are puzzle. In this last case, the Gemara says Rabbi Huda argues on. Now, if you have three people that bring the get, two say it was written before us, and one says it was signed before us. Here, the Mishnah says it's a machokas, Tanakama says it's puzzle, and Rabbi Huda says it's kosher. Now, if one says it was written, and two say that it was signed before us, then everyone agrees that that's kosher. That's the only case where everyone agrees that it is kosher, and the Gemara will explain why. We now begin the Gemara. The Gemara has a number of comments briefly. So the Gemara first says, why do I need this Mishnah altogether? This is all clear from the previous Mishnah, where we said that somebody brings a get from Medina Siyam has to say b'fanei nechtam was written before me and signed before me. If he doesn't say it, obviously it's no good. So the Gemara says, no, if he would have just had the previous Mishnah, you would have thought it says tzarech, he needs to say it. It would not have implied that if he doesn't say it, it's puzzle. He has to say it. That's on him. But possibly it's kosher even if he doesn't say it. Therefore, we need this Mishnah to tell me that it's puzzle. Okay, next, the Mishnah had a case where it was halfway written before me and it was signed fully before me. We said that that's puzzle. The Gemara says, which half? If it's the first half, then it's a problem because Rav Elazar says the only thing that has to be lishma is the first line, and the entire function of b'fanei nechtam, at least according to one opinion, is lishma. So the first line is where you have the name of the man, the woman, and the place. That's the identifying factors, and the time. That's what has to be written lishma. So the rest of it, you shouldn't care if it was nechtav in front of him or not. So the Gemara therefore says, Rav Ashi says, no, it's the last part. The first half was not written lishma. He's saying he saw the last half written in front of him, but the first half would be enough. Okay, next we have the case where it says it was all written in front of me, but only one of the witnesses signed in front of me. Now Rav Chizah wants to say a chiddush. Rav Chizah says, even if we have no doubt about the validity of the second witness, we have two other witnesses who come and testify to the validity of the signature of the second witness. Even so, it gets puzzle. Why? Because you have one aid that's been corroborated by the shliach, which is the special takanas chazal that we believe the shliach, and the other aid that's been corroborated by the standard rules of corroboration of signatures, which is by two witnesses. You can't split it like that. It's all through the takana of the shliach, or all through the standard procedure of two witnesses. You can't have one and one. So the Gemara says, how could that be? Rava asks, you mean to tell me on the second signature, if the one shliach were to testify to it, you would trust him, and now two come and you don't trust them? How could it be that you would trust one, but you don't trust two? It doesn't fit with anything we've learned before. Rava therefore says his own chiddush. He also wants to say a chiddush as to what the halacha of the Mishnah is. I think Gemara is going to challenge this as well. So Rava's chiddush is that as follows: even if the shliach came and he said, I can testify to one of the signatures, I saw it signed in front of me. However, the other signature, I could testify to that as well, but there's another witness that's coming and testifying along with me. Us two were saying that we saw that signature, or we know that this is his, and therefore I'm part of a testimony on the second witness as well. So in this case, it's puzzle. Now, why should it be puzzle? What's the problem? So the Gemara explains, because this could be easily confused with a similar situation with shtaros and not gittin, and in that similar situation, it's also puzzle. There, it's puzzle medina. So even though this should be kosher, because hare the shliach is testifying to both signatures, so what's the problem? But because it may get confused with a case of regular shtaros, where it's puzzle, we make it puzzle here also. What's that case? So that case is where you have a document, it has a pair of witnesses that are signed on it. You need to corroborate those two witnesses. So there's two ways of corroborating a witness. One is if the witness himself comes and he says, yes, I signed that. If that's what happens, you only need him. You don't need anybody else. Another way is if you can't find the witness himself, you have two witnesses who come and say, I recognize that this signature is what it says it is. For that, you need two witnesses. Now, what happens if you have a split? Two witnesses are signed on the shtar. One of them comes and says, yes, that's my signature. The other one's gone. You can't find him. However, the first witness comes and says, I'm going to testify that signature is valid. And then there's another person that comes along and says, I'm going to join with you. So the halacha here is that it's puzzle. This is not a way of being mekayim of the edus. And the Gemara explains in Ksubis that's because 3/4 of the shtar is resting on the shoulders of one witness and only 1/4 on the other witness, and that's no good. A witness can't do more than half a shtar. Why 3/4? Because if you view each witness as requiring 2 to corroborate it, that means you need a total of 4. 2 to corroborate the first witness and 2 to corroborate the second witness. 2 to that is to say the validity, to certify the first witness, and 2 for the second witness, for a total of 4. The first witness is being validated by himself, so he's doing those 2. He's also doing one of the 2 that are necessary for the third witness. Therefore, he's doing 3 out of the 4 witnesses that are needed. That is possible, like Gemara says. He can't do more than 1. So here you have a similar situation. One shliach is coming and he's testifying to the first signature, and then he also wants to testify to the second signature along with somebody else. That's a problem because even though Medina should be kosher because Chazal believed him on the witnesses of a get, because it could be too easily confused, it's possible. That's what Rava wants to say is a chiddush. And that Rav Ashi asks, it's not possible because if the second person wouldn't come, this would be a kosher get. So the second person comes, it gets worse. How's it possible? The first person, the shliach comes, he says, I recognize both signatures, he's good to go. Comes along someone else and says, I also recognize the second signature. Now it's a problem. Impossible. Therefore, says Rav Ashi, the case here where you could say that it's possible is as follows. The shliach comes and he says, I'm 1/8, and I'm testifying b'fani nechtam the other 8. Now it's exactly like the case of the stars where it's 3 out of 4. That's possible because this is the same case. He's doing 3/4 of the get. He's 1/8 himself, and he's testifying to the other one. 3/4 is possible, and we don't allow it. So we have, therefore, 3 different opinions as to what chiddush you could say in the Mishnah. You have Rav Chizda, you have Rava, and you have Rav Ashi. In all of them, the shliach is testifying to one of the signatures. The second one, according to Rav Chizda, is possible even if you have 2 witnesses. According to Rava, it's possible even if you have the shliach plus another witness. And according to Rav Ashi, it's even if the shliach says, I myself am the second witness. So now, the Gemara wants to bring a proof from the Mishnah against Rav Chizda. So the Gemara says, what is the chiddush of all the cases in the Mishnah? L'chayra, you could learn one, and then you could not need another one. What does the Mishnah say? One of the examples there is where somebody says, I saw the entire ksiva, I saw the entire writing, and I saw half the signing, and I saw one of the 2 signatures. So now the Gemara says, what is the case here? What is the status of the other signature? If you want to tell me that no one saw the other signature, so the only thing we have, we could ignore the writing for now because we're going to be assuming that someone saw the writing in all cases. But here, the case we are here discussing is where he said, I saw one of the signatures. So if you want to tell me that no one saw the other signature, so I don't understand. In the previous case, we had where one person said, I saw the writing, and someone else said, I saw the signature. We said, that's possible. So if you have the entire signature, both signatures, being seen by an aide, it's just not the same one. That's possible. So if it's only being seen by half, only one of the signatures are being seen, and the other one has no aidis, for sure that's possible. So what would be the chiddush here? So it's an extra case. Since it's an extra case, it must be telling me that there is some testimony there, but there's some form of testimony that's possible. Now, what form of testimony is it? So it's got to be the smallest possible chiddush. Of Rav Chizda, Rava, and Rav Ashi, Rava and Rav Ashi are equal chidushim. So therefore, and they're smaller than Rav Chizda. So you can't go so far as to say Rav Chizda's chiddush. All you have is the smallest chiddush. Once you have the smallest chiddush, it's not extra anymore. So we'll go with Rava and Rav Ashi, and at least we could reject Rav Chizda for sure. We'll go with Rava that you have the witness, you have the shliach plus a witness, and Rav Ashi that you have the shliach saying it's me. Those are equal chedushim. We'll go with each of those. But the chedush of Rav Chizda, that even if you have two witnesses, it's still a psul. That we're not going to go that far. We're not going to say a chiddush like that. So as Rav Chizda will answer you very simply, and I'll say either way, you're going to say that you don't have chedushim. Because look, there's another case in the Mishnah you have where he says, I saw the entire writing and I didn't see any signature. Why does it say that? If you didn't see any signature, why is that a chiddush? If you saw one, it's possible. Certainly if you saw none, if no one saw any, that case is definitely not a chiddush. Obviously, you don't have a chiddush in every case. This Mishnah is written in a style of leizu afsu. We say one thing and we build up, we say another greater chiddush on top of that. So you can't say that there's drushes and there's limudim out of what the chiddush of each of the cases is. And we're not learning anything out of the need for a chiddush here. The Gemara now goes off into a bit of a tangent, talking about having two different things combining together to make a halacha. The Gemara is going to have two such cases. The first is said by Rav Chizda. He's talking about a wall of Rosh Hashanah and Hilchos Shabbos. In Hilchos Shabbos, there are different halachas to different types of reshuyos, different areas, which aren't defined by how many people are there, but are defined by what kind of walls you have around it and how large it is. The din of Rosh Hashanah, among other dinim, is that you have to have a wall 10 tefachim high around the area. So that could be made by a fencing above ground of 10 tefachim, or a wall dipping down below of 10 tefachim. Because this is, what if you have half and half? What if you have a hole in the ground 5 tefachim deep, so you have walls around you of 5 tefachim below ground, and then there's fencing on top of that, adding another 5 tefachim for a total of 10 tefachim from a combination of wall going down and wall going up. So what do you say in a case like that? So Rav Chizda says that's puzzle. That's no good because they don't combine. It has to all be wall or all be hole. Says Mareimar, it's not correct halacha l'maisa. We say that it is mitzdarif, and the halacha is that way, that it is mitzdarif. Okay, the second halacha now goes to the halachos of purifying one's hands, netilas or shtifas yadayim, purifying